Casey and the Sports Doctor is brought to you by the MJ Sullivan Automotive Corner. Welcome, sports fans, to Casey and the Sports Doctor, the show about sports, big and small, where you, the audience, get to participate in the discussion via social media. And tonight, Sports Doctor, via actual live here. Where are we?
We're at Philomena's restaurant right here in Waterford, Connecticut. Special thanks to them each and every week, Casey, for their hospitality.
Yeah, we can't thank Philomena's enough, and we thank everyone here in our live studio audience tonight. And they're going to be giving us feedback and questions, maybe even some rants or some opinions. But as always, you can find all of those things, plus our question of the week, on our various social media platforms. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram. I'm not even sure what that is, but my wife takes care of that for us. So, Sports Doctor, we have a lot to cover tonight, a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the Olympics. We're going to talk about the Waterford boys 13-year-old baseball team. Football is coming. Does anybody care that the Olympics are coming? Lots to talk about. Before we do that, though, always we have to pay some bills. MJ Sullivan Hyundai wants you to take the summer off from car payments. 0 payments for 6 months, with the first 3 months on them. Plus 0% financing. Wow. Stop in today for more details. MJ Sullivan Hyundai. All right, we're back. So, Sports Doctor, the Waterford 13-year-old boys Babe Ruth team is headed to Iowa to play in the World Series. Now, every group from their 8-year-olds to their 12-year-olds also won their divisions this year. So I ask you the question, is Waterford the best sports town for baseball in all of Connecticut?
Yeah, it's a good question, Casey, and it's amazing with the success the youngsters have had, in the town of Waterford. And it's, I was talking to your good buddy Lee Elsey last week and I asked him this very same question. He had mentioned something with the power plant and the powers that be that have kind of infected people a little bit in the town of Waterford and made them tremendous baseball players. But, when you think about it, throughout the course of the years, in the town of Waterford, it starts, basically at the high school level with some of the coaches and, the great success. And it's trickled down. It's trickled down into the feeder systems, and it's trickled down in not only Little League, but Babe Ruth and farm system. Waterford is, a baseball town. In some of these towns, you'll see sports come in cycles. Well, Waterford's cycle has been about 40 years, Case.
Growing up, there were a lot of great youth communities in baseball. East Lyme,
Right.
New London, Groton and Fitch, Waterford, all very good. And the debate then was who was the best as you went up through high school. And though those are still excellent, the East Lyme youth program
Right.
is excellent, so is Groton. And I can't say enough, I already have on this show, about the job that New London is doing with their youth program. But think about this, the Waterford 9-10 Little League, the Waterford 11-12 Little League,
Tremendous.
both won their representative brackets. The 13-year-olds are going to the World Series in Radar O'Reilly's hometown of Ottumwa, Iowa, for you MASH fans out there. And this is not the first time that they've done that. Right. Their high school baseball team has won multiple state championships in recent years. But this is not the first time. Lee Elsey went to the World Series
Right.
with his Waterford team. So no other place in the state of Connecticut has baseball like this.
Well, when you look across the state, obviously, Sheehan High School in Wallingford's a huge baseball town. Obviously, Woodbridge, with the success of the Amity team, 4 straight state championships in baseball. And how about Berlin? Multiple state championships as well. But when you look at towns from top to bottom, Waterford arguably could be the best in baseball in the state, Casey O'Neill.
Well, unfortunately, we're starting off the show with me agreeing with the Sports Doctor, which never bodes well. But Waterford, congratulations. In my opinion, you are the best sports town for baseball in the entire state of Connecticut.
Casey, the Olympics are coming in Rio next week. Do you care? Does anyone care?
All right, so I care because growing up, I loved the Olympics and I loved the nationalism of all of it. That being said, I think I might be the only one that cares. And here's why. We have become an event culture in this country. Everything is an event now. The NBA draft, the NFL draft, everything is an event. So it's minimized the event that was the Olympics. We are also an individual country. We are a country full of individual narcissists. What is it about me? The Olympics is about country. That being said, it is hard to get excited about an event that displaces 80,000 people out of their homes in order to create an Olympic Village, where people are going to be walking away with any number of diseases, and where the swimmers are 100% guaranteed to be infected by essentially swimming in a toilet, in a fecal infected water, where the head of the Olympics said they're all going to get infected. Depends on how good their immune system is to how sick they actually get.
So you're telling me you like the Olympics, and the one thing that you did not mention was sports, competition. You mentioned event. So I think that we're missing the point here. It's about the spirit of competition in sport, and you didn't mention that at all. I don't really care about the Olympics anymore. I think it's a over-marketed piece of garbage, in my opinion. I mean, when you stopped putting in the college kids, the amateurs, and you made it about the professionals, it lost its luster for me. There's no more passion there. To me, the Olympics is the '80 Olympic hockey team. It's the '72 team in Munich. It's about the spirit. It's about patriotism. And right now, for me, it's all about capitalism.
Well, and that's because, again, you have the view of the United States. And even though
I'm a sports fan.
Well, even though we think we're the only country in the world, there's actually a lot of other countries out there who have a much more...
Like Russia?
Well, they're among them, but countries that know their athletes. I mean, that's why you watch the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, and you watch these countries with these 7 people that are walking in, holding their flag, and for those 7 people, they've trained their entire life towards this moment. There's something spectacular about the notion that if you don't succeed, you got to wait 4 more years for it to happen. Those are the stories we should embrace, and there still is all of that competition. You've just gotten fickle and burned out by the media of our country.
I mean, that's fantastic and everything, and I do like some of the stories, but as a serious sports fan, I won't watch any of it.
Dun, 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 dun,
okay,
dun,
we're done here.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun. I win. All right, time for one of my favorite segments, the Highlander segment. That means there can only be one. So, Sports Doctor, what are you more excited about? All right, the upcoming football season or the imminent Major League Baseball playoffs?
Football, 100% football. I mean, who does not love football season? Major League Baseball playoffs, unless my team is involved, it's kind of a grind, it's kind of a drag. But to me, football is an event. Everybody loves football. It's a social event. It comes a couple times a week, Thursday, I guess, Sunday, Monday. I mean, we wait all year long for 16 games. Casey O'Neill, football in my world is king.
Well, listen, you're not wrong, and I can show you that by the fact that the Patriots just opened their training camp.
Right.
And in the first 5 days of non-contact, not games, practice, they drew 75,000 people to watch practice. All of them are insane like you. And here's why. No one remembers what happens in week 1 of the football season, but you remember Kirk Gibson's home run in the World Series. You remember the walk-off by Big Papi. The playoffs in baseball in October with the leaves changing, the Fall Classic, Schilling's bloody sock, the Red Sox winning the World Series. These are the iconic moments of our country's history. You don't like the Olympics? You don't like baseball? You're the most un-American person I've ever met in my life. Why don't you just go slap Betty Crocker around?
Listen, I love football. I wait all year for it, and football is one of those things. It's an event, Casey. You have fantasy football leagues, and you have it all. How do you sit? You're going to sit there and watch the Toronto Blue Jays versus the Texas Rangers on a Tuesday night in October?
Well, first of all, you're going to go to an extreme, but the answer is yes.
I would rather watch the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Cleveland Browns on a Thursday night.
And that right there, my friends, I don't have to say another word. That epitomizes why I am right and you are woefully, woefully wrong.
Go Sox. That's all I got to say.
All right. Would you rather watch 6 hours of Jimmy Walker winning the U.S. Open Golf Championship?
Who?
Or 6 hours of Jimmy Walker saying dynamite in a Good Times marathon?
Oh, boy, golf is missing something, and that something is by the name of Tiger Woods, and he is long gone, and we'll never see him again. Golf is lacking right now. I mean, outside of 18 holes between Stenson and Phil a few weeks ago at the British Open, it doesn't move the needle for me anymore. There's some good young golfers out there, Spieth, Jason Day, but it just lacks that personality that golf used to have. It lacks that just something extra to make me want to go back. And yeah, I'm not just golf is really, really sour right now.
Golf has always been a niche audience sport. Even up until Tiger Woods, there's never been a time other than when Tiger Woods was on the tour that golf has really ever been a big audience other than for golf fans. And so golf fans aren't going anywhere, and they would tell you about Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy, and they'd name all the great young golfers, Ricky Fowlers of the world. And the reality is, until someone comes along to grab the rest of the country, golf is simply that. I can't watch Jimmy Walker win at the U.S. Open. He doesn't have the cachet for me. However, the trials and tribulations of the Evans family, Sister Thelma was. There was a lot of good stuff going on with the. I would watch the Good Times
like
Marathon.
Like those classic TVs.
I do.
You like all
I
those
do.
shows, Happy Days, all that stuff. Big fan.
All right, which is more likely, Sports Doctor? Jimmy Garoppolo starts and goes 4-0 for the Patriots, igniting a quarterback controversy. Which is more likely, that or the U.S. Olympic women's basketball team loses a game?
Well, first of all, Casey, I don't think as long as Tom Brady is upright, there's never going to be a quarterback controversy in New England. Jimmy Garoppolo can go 16-0. It doesn't matter. If Tom Brady's ready to play in Week 17 in the playoffs, he's going to play. To me,
So you're saying that's not going to happen?
That's not going to happen.
Okay, well, let me explain to you. Let me explain to you where you're missing. Hold on a second. You have forgotten the world that we live in.
Right.
If Jimmy Garoppolo goes 4-0,
You're right.
There will be people who call up and go, he's young. Let's get him in there. Brady's all done anyway, hanging out with the supermodel.
The fans,
the
coaches,
it will happen.
The fans or the fans or the coaches?
No, it doesn't matter what the fans. Of course, the fans.
Fans will call for that.
But you have to understand that there's no chance.
Right.
There's a better chance of you and I winning a game in the Olympics than there is of the women losing a game. He started the UConn team the other night and won by 60. He could start a Tennessee team and win by 60. He could start the Ball Boys and 3 people that serve drinks and win the Olympic gold medal.
I think that the Patriots will probably go 3-1, 2-2. I do not think that the men's and/or women's basketball team will lose a ball game, and they probably will win every game by 55 or 60 points. The men's basketball team and the women's basketball team are 1-20. 1-20 favorites to win their respective gold medals.
Understand this.
Spirit of competition.
The UConn, I see it slip right there. The Olympic women's team has a roster of 12 people?
Yes.
You could take those 12, the next 12, the next 12, the next 12, not play any of them, and that next 12 could win the Olympic gold medal. That's how far we are ahead of the rest of the world.
And men's basketball is the same boat, folks. Doctor's Notes, brought to you by Jordan Chiropractic. I always have often wondered about how people have chosen their favorite sport teams. Who we root for? Where does our allegiance lie? And how does one become a Yankee fan, a Red Sox fan, a Mets fan, possibly a Steeler fan, and for God's sakes, a Cowboy fan? It's fascinating for me to see someone in the grocery store wearing a Minnesota Viking hat in southeastern Connecticut. Some of the most engaging sport conversations can come by asking someone who roots for a certain team. For the most part, being a loyal sports fan has been passed down through generations. My dad was a Red Sox fan, a Yankee fan, a Giant fan. Oh well, you get the point. Until you get to today's modern youth, I find that more and more kids today don't have an allegiance with a team. They root for players. That's right, Sports Doctor. I really don't have a team. I'm a Steph Curry fan or a LeBron fan. I kind of like the Red Sox and I kind of like the Yankees. What? Is that really possible? Saddest thing is that some of these kids these days get their favorite players off of NBA 2K or Xbox 360. I guess it's a different world we live in for sure. And at different times, I guess the way we watch games and view sports is all different as well. All you can tell is there's nothing more special to me at 47 years old than be able to sit down with my dad and watch a few innings of a Red Sox game. Us old-timers are kind of history buffs, I guess. Sports and sports history has been kept alive in families for generations. I'd rather have known about the history of the Boston Celtics and the Leprechaun, or the sale of Babe Ruth and the curse, and root for my teams and players that way, rather than using the likeness of Carmelo Anthony with a joystick and figure out my favorite player in that type of situation. Sports is rich in tradition and history, and for today's younger generation, learn about it. Learn about it. Learn from your parents. You just might look at the games and appreciate them with a better understanding. And that, my friends, is your doctor's note. Jordan Chiropractic specializes in athletic injuries by combining a number of services and techniques centered on sports chiropractic care. Each individual's treatments are customized to give the best outcome for quick injury recovery and preventative rehabilitation. Special emphasis is placed on allowing the athlete to continue their training program while the injury is healing.
When should your son or daughter start weight training? When is it safe? What should they be doing and at what age? Well, we're going to go and ask the pro. With us today is Greg Drab, owner and I guess director of Advantage Personal Training, and he's going to be our go to the pro. And we're going to find out, when is it safe for kids to start weight training?
It's a really great question. What you'd find is if you were to look on the internet and research it, they have programs for kids as early as age of 7. They'll have it between 7 and 10, 11 to 14, 15 to 18. So what we found is, when is a kid coachable? When is a kid going to be able to follow the instruction of a coach? Because, just this last night I was complaining to my wife. We were watching a show on A&E on kids and bodybuilders. And what it was you had parents having their kids do bodybuilders. So there might have been a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old lifting weights at home. And why it was cringing was they had these guys lifting weights, and every time they did a bench press, you could see their shoulders kind of glide forward like this. And I'm saying to my wife, oh my God, they're going to wreck their shoulders doing this. And the father's over here, good, let's do more. And having the kids kind of smack their face. It was sort of entertaining, but sort of weird in the same point. I wanted to write into the show and say, you guys are doing more harm than good. It's really like any sport, it's technique. Can people move correctly before you start to load them and make things harder?
How important is it for you guys to know the development of that specific boy or girl or child? Because young kids develop differently, some faster, some quicker. But how important is it for you guys to take somebody one-on-one and get to know them a little bit?
Anybody, whether a kid, adult, we got to get them in and assess them and evaluate them. We have a system that we follow called the functional movement screen. It tells us, how well people move, and athletes are the best at compensating. And when you train an athlete, if you can clean up just a little bit of movements, suddenly they can get lower, suddenly they can get to the base quicker. Just things start to clean up because they're not compensating, they're not using the wrong muscles to get them there.
What's your number one approach when you're training, a youngster? A sophomore, junior, even earlier than that in high school, for football, for basketball, for baseball? Is it basically functional body muscle? Is it, full on with the weights? Some of those old school things are going by the wayside nowadays.
Right. Really, we train everyone in our place as if they're an athlete. So we're going to have them functional, we're going to have them upright, we're going to have them moving. Gone are the days of just, hey, go to this machine, pull the pin, do that. Go to this machine, pull the pin, do that. Or, deadlift as much weight as you can pick up off the floor. It's really about, can I get you to move correctly using the right movements?
So separating out, and I think this is an important distinction. It's okay to start training at the age in which you become coachable. My son is 8, and he is incredibly coachable. So he could start training, he could start doing workouts. But when you start talking about things like weight training or resistance training that are going to be designed to build strength and maybe mass, that can't possibly be good at 8 years old.
No, because what happens is, because my own son is 10 and 11, my own kids are 10 and 11, and what I'm coaching them now is how well to get them to move, to do things correctly. We use a term called relative strength, and what that is how strong are you for your body? Because, as an athlete, the most important piece of equipment is their body. So if they're really good at moving with their body, we're going to make them better. So when you talk about, I want to build mass, I want to build this weight, testosterone is what builds muscle mass. That's why women and men can work out together, and men are going to put on more muscle because they have more testosterone. An 8-year-old kid doesn't have that much testosterone. And so it's mindless to waste any time trying to bulk up your 8-year-old. It's really about wherever they are in their growth and development when you're starting to worry about muscle. And typically, I find that to be somewhere as early as 14 with some athletes to 18, 19 with others. It's just where they are developmentally.
My wife and I work out in our hometown, and the local high school has kids. And these kids are, I never had kids. Even the best athletes when I was in high school didn't look like these kids. They are in an amazing shape, and they're at this gym pounding weights night after night after night. And I'm asking myself, isn't there going to come a point, though, where the shoulder or the knee just has hit, can't do any more repetitions of this?
Right. Like every joint in the body, it's sort of like you can overuse anything. I started weight training at 12, just so you know. My brothers kind of threw together a muscle magazine book, and I'm sure I did a ton of things wrong.
You haven't stopped either.
I've never stopped. I'm 40 years old now. What it did do for me that was good was it gave me that habit. Like I got into this habit of doing something that I started in 1998 and have not stopped since. Yeah, I did a lot of things wrong. I was reading muscle magazines that were written by bodybuilders on steroids, but luckily I didn't get hurt, and luckily it's kind of helped mold my career.
So when you have, especially with, boys and girls are different as well. And you see more girls weight training. What's the approach when you're training some of the female athletes out there? Because you have a lot of them, and kids too. Carolyn Tabor's been in your gym.
Yes.
Do you use a different approach with that?
Yeah, what you do with athletes is you look at what sport they're in and what injuries are kind of common with that sport. If they're a tennis athlete, is there shoulder and elbow injuries? If they're a softball pitcher, if they're a pitcher, there's going to be more risk of shoulder injuries.
Right.
And so you kind of look at their sport, and then you look at the athlete and see sort of how well are they moving? Like, are they standing with an arch? Are they standing slunched over? Because she could have the best pitching mechanics ever, but if she's not in good posture position when she throws the ball, it's not going to be good on her shoulder.
So there's no real answer to what's a good age to start your son or your daughter in weight training. It all depends on the individual and if they're doing it properly.
I would say once they're coachable and they're able to listen to a coach, you want to work on getting their relative strength, getting them strong for using their body. At some point, wherever they are developmentally, if you're trying to build muscle mass, it's kind of that puberty stage. Do they have facial hair? Do they have armpit hair? Are they developmentally starting to have that testosterone to build muscle mass?
So I want to ask you to give. There's going to be a lot of kids and teenagers who watch this show, as well as grown-ups. So what is the one piece of advice that you would give to the kids that are watching the show, and what is the one piece of advice you would give to the parents of these kids that are watching the show?
To the kids, I would say, and this is really hard for kids, make it about the quality of what you're doing, not the quantity. Because oftentimes they just want to do heavier. Oh, I did this last week, I want to do heavier this week. And it's really about how good is the movement that they're doing. To the parents, know that your kids are going to be more apt to get together and compete against each other and maybe overdo it. Get them in an environment where you can have somebody supervise and kind of guide them to what's right for them.
Makes sense. He's got all the answers. Look at him.
I have been looking at him, and sitting next to the two of you, I'm going to say that the mind is the most important body part that you have. We want to thank Greg Drab, owner of Advantage Personal Fitness, for personal training, for coming in and really educating us on important aspects of weight training. And certainly for those people that are watching, if you have any questions about that specifically, you can send them in on Facebook or on our social media or to theday.com. And if you have a specific question for Greg, we'll get it to him, and then we can help some people out.
Awesome. Keep up the good work, Greg.
Thanks, Casey.
Nice job.
Thanks,
all right?
Casey. Appreciate it very much.
The Voice of Reason, brought to you by Motorsports Nation. My father has taught me a lot of lessons through the years, many of them through the veil of sports. I was also very fortunate to be able to compete with him in the Morgan Park Baseball League. I was the catcher, he was the pitcher, and yes, he shook me off. I played shortstop, he played second base, and we turned a double play, but yes, he made an error on the first ball that was hit to him. But through all of it, there were a lot of triumphs, which is why it was very exciting and an honor for me to play with him at Great Neck Country Club in Waterford in the member guest golf tournament last month. Now, my father has won more championships than I can count, and he is still the benchmark for golf at that country club. So it was a beautiful day. The weather was perfect. The course was outstanding, and I saw every inch of it. Every tree, every bunker, every piece of fescue, every water hazard. I may have hit a squirrel. And while I stood over and hit what seemed to be my third ball in a row out of bounds, I actually got filled up with tears, and I apologized to my dad for being such a terrible partner, and he smiled at me. And he said, "Do you really think how you play is what this is about? I would rather be nowhere but here. I am cherishing every second of this. And as long as I draw breath, you will be my partner in this." Now, I can't tell you, parents, while you're watching your children play, remind them that you are so thrilled to be there for the experience of it all, because it's fleeting, it ends quickly. It's not about their performance, not about how good they do, how bad they do. When someone says, "Hey, how's your son or daughter doing in their sport?" don't give them a, "he was 2 for 3" or "she broke the 500. Just say, "It is so much fun to be able to watch them compete." So as my 8-year-old stood on the mound last week at Mitchell Woods in New London, pitching from the same mound that I pitched from, on the same field that his grandfather played on. Yes, Grandpa was in the stands watching. He triumphed, he failed, he struggled, he got frustrated. And at one point he looked to me for advice. And I smiled at him and I said, do you think any of this has to do with how well you're playing? I cherish every second of this, and there is no place in the world I would rather be. And as long as I draw breath, I will be your partner in this. And he beamed, and I sighed. Thanks for the lesson, Dad. Motorsports Nation in Waterford, Plainfield, and Rehoboth, Mass., offering the best deals on motorcycles, ATVs, utility vehicles, scooters, and personal watercraft. If you like discounts, you'll love Motorsports Nation. Visit them at www.motorsportsnation.com and make sure you ask for Kyle, Scott, or my man Vern.
As you all know, Casey O'Neill is the voice of game day. He is the play-by-play voice for football and for basketball, and he has the responsibility of coming up with these crazy calls during big-time moments in high school games. Simple game, Casey. Simple call. What are some of your favorite calls all time for announcers?
How about he could go all the way?
Chris Berman?
I like that
You
one.
like Boomer.
I like it more than back, gone.
How about, I was a big fan of Howard Cosell growing up as a kid. How about down goes Frazier? Down goes Frazier. Great call.
It's a classic confrontation.
That wasn't even, some people think that's Muhammad Ali knocking out Joe Frazier, and it was not. It was George Foreman. Down goes Frazier.
How about something like the famous Johnny Most, the Celtics broadcaster? Birds piddling, diddling, stop, pop, bang!
And Havlicek stole the ball. Johnny Havlicek steals the ball. Johnny Most, one of my all-time favorites, Casey O'Neill.
How about David Ortiz? David Ortiz! David Ortiz!
Your point?
David Ortiz!
Hey, how about the classic call of Vince Scully, 1988 World Series? I don't believe what I just saw.
Well, if you're gonna
That
go,
was off the Eck.
it
Off
is.
of Dennis Eckersley.
It is Kirk Gibson.
Yes.
But you could also go, if you're going to go classic calls, the Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. 5 times, by the way.
It's fine. I mean, one of my all-time favorites doing basketball, obviously, Bill Raftery. I loved Raftery as a kid growing up, Big East basketball. Send it in, Jerome, with the kiss.
With the kiss and a minimum.
Defense with Casey O'Neill.
I was a big Marv Albert fan. Ewing
Huge.
from the corner. Yes!
From downtown. He's heating up. He's on fire.
And Fuego?
Simply. Casey O'Neill is hot, so there's a lot of good, different people out there. I love broadcasters, and you know what? Casey does a real nice job on game day.
All right, I'm going to have to give a shout out to my Yankee friends out there because even though I can't stand them, is there anything better than it is high, it is far, it is...
Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
So we've taken the time to see what our audience has for questions, and we are going to answer every one of them. The first one I have is from Joey O, and he wants to know, how will Kevin Durant playing on a rival team affect him knowing that he betrayed his own team to go there?
It won't affect him one bit. He's going to go out there and play basketball. The team's going to win how many games in the season? 82. They're going to win 79 games, win the championship, and the season will be over with.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on this.
And you always do.
Oh, no, I think it will affect him. I think that the amount of pressure going to that team, if they lose 2 in a row, it's something they didn't do all year.
He's got no pressure. He's got Klay Thompson. He's got Steph Curry. He's got Draymond Green. He's got Steve Kerr as a coach. What pressure?
If they lose 2 in a row, it's Durant's fault, and he's got to go and look at Russell Westbrook and those guys in the eyes and say, I bailed on you to come here?
He's getting paid $30 million a year. He can shoulder the blame. Just saying.
Will David Ortiz really retire at the end of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the last year for David Ortiz. A lot of people don't see it, but his feet really hurt him. It takes everything he possibly can, to get up for 4 at-bats during the course of a game. Enjoy this. He is having a special year, but this is it for David Ortiz. This is the end of the line for him.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that he's having the greatest season of any 40-year-old in the history of baseball.
Tremendous year.
And it's unheard of for someone to retire
Right.
off of a season like this. Now, I'm 45, almost, but it sounds like a box of Rice Krispies when I wake up in the morning. and that's what David Ortiz is going from. He said very honestly that the amount of work to get him, it takes him 3 hours to get ready for a game, and one misstep to really put him in a lot of pain. So it's just not worth it anymore.
No, I think at 40 years old, he's finally listened to his body, and it's amazing that he's got lightning in a bottle for one more year.
Yeah. Are the Connecticut Sun going to make the playoffs?
Yeah. That's a trick question. No, I don't think so. I think they're 5-60. I don't know quite what their record is, but no, this is a rebuilding process for the Sun. They had some terrific young players come in this year. They traded away a veteran in Kelsey Bone. I think you're going to have at least another year or two of growing pains with this team. They got a brand new coach. They have all brand new players, brand new system. To think that they would actually make a run and make the playoffs is a stretch.
If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? So if the Connecticut Sun were to make the playoffs and no one other than my mom and 5 other people...
No, my dad would care. My dad would be carrying the flag.
There's 2 of the 5 people that would care about whether the Sun made the playoffs. I consider myself to be a huge sports fan, and if the Connecticut Sun were competitive, I would be interested. The fact that you could name players and a coach tells me you're already more interested in them than most people.
Listen,
that's unfortunate.
Listen, if you're a Sun fan, just be patient, stick with this team, but don't expect immediate results. Be patient, kids.
Unless, of course, like me, you think the WNBA is a failed endeavor and probably should go away.
That's one man's opinion. One man's opinion. Oh, boy, oh, boy.
You can boo. Please do. I have nothing but facts on my side. Declining attendance, no revenue, inability to pay players. Why are they all going over to play overseas where they care about them? No one in this country cares about it. Right.
What about having a good time down here? What
Because
about
no one
in the slots in the League Sun?
Because no one cares. All right, so it's time to see what our viewers, including our studio audience today, had in store for the question of the week. This week's question was, what is the greatest sporting event that you have seen live? Sports Doctor, why don't you give us some of...
A ton of people responding to this. And when you think about Southeastern Connecticut and the area we live in, you've got Red Sox, you've got Yankees, you've got UConn, but a lot of people have traveled all over for their sports. Some went to a Super Bowl. Paul says Red Sox versus the Tigers, ALCS game to put the Red Sox in the World Series. Very, very special moment for Paul.
Yeah, and I love Phil Yaring was in St. Louis when the Red Sox won their first World Series in St. Louis. He's a Yankee fan. He said it was one of the worst sports moments of his life.
John Sullivan was at the Boston Marathon the year Bill Rogers won, so a very special time for him. Pat says 1999 UConn first men's national championship down at the Trop in Tampa, Florida, Casey O'Neill.
And Timmy Viveris said UConn as well. 2004, the Final Four, UConn Duke. And going back, your buddy, guest of yours on your show, Josh Tiven, NBA referee, said the 2004 ALCS, he was there in Game 5 when Big Papi had the walk-off single. The aforementioned David Ortiz against Mariano Rivera. He was there. Place was electric.
Yeah, Peter says September 1st, 2007. How do I know that day? Because I was there. Clay Buchholz's no-hitter versus the Baltimore Orioles. Fenway Park was electric that day, and I've been to a ton of games at Fenway. I've been to playoff games. I went to Roger Clemens' first game back as a member of the Toronto Blue Jays, but there is nothing like a no-hitter. And if you actually were there in live in person, very, very special, Casey. The place was on fire.
Football games got a lot of mention. Of course, my dad commented he's been to multiple Patriots Super Bowls, and he said that was his, watching them win their first Super Bowl. Dwayne Pearson said, going to see Green Bay over Pittsburgh in Dallas with his dad. I mean, that's a special moment. But I think Gary Makowicki, former AD at NFA, has a really special one for a personal reason as well. The Army-Navy football game. What a great event the Army-Navy football game
Tremendous
is.
experience. I was at Boston College one year when Notre Dame beat them. Does that count?
Only to Mike DeMoro.
That's it. Dale Earnhardt, senior, wins his Daytona 500. That's got to be something special to be at. If you're any kind of sports fan, Dale Earnhardt Sr. finally cracking through and winning his first and only Daytona 500.
Yeah, I mean, NASCAR's a really widely watched sport that's very emotional for those people. Now, you have an interesting one. It's a friend of mine, Bill Ballant, huge Michigan fan. Yeah. And I have to admit, I am not a fan of either of these teams, but as an event, the Michigan-Ohio State game, when they were ranked 1 and 2, he was there for that game. That's a pretty big event.
I mean, wherever you're either at Michigan at Ohio State, you're having 100,000 plus. That is a big-time sporting event. And, it's just so many things coming in from all these people, Casey.
He said he showed up at 8:30 in the morning, and it felt like they were late.
That's a good tailgate.
People have
8:30
been
in the morning is
camped
a
out.
heck of a tailgate, that's for sure.
So I ask you, what's yours?
Well, I mean, the Clay Ball Colts no-hitter is very special to me, but, back in May of 2002, I had a chance to go see Arturo Gotti and Mickey Ward, the Mick from Massachusetts, from Lowell, Mass., fighting their first of their trilogies on the Mohegan Sun. And it's the first time I'd ever been to a boxing match. I sat ringside. Dr. Alessi was still there. I sat behind Jim Lampley and Larry Merchant, the whole HBO crew was there. It's just a very, very special night. To my left, just a row in front of me, with 3/4 of the cast of The Sopranos, Paulie Walnuts, Jackie Jr., they were all there. What a special night. And it's funny because you had half the place was full of Gotti fans, half the place was full of Mickey Ward fans down from Massachusetts. Casey, the place was electric. They fought in a phone booth for 10 rounds. I can't believe Gotti made it out of that 9th round, but I still have goosebumps talking about it now.
Well, I'm going to have to give 3 for me, and it sort of spans the gamut of my love of sports. Coming in at number 3, 1986, I was at Game 6 of the American League Playoff Series, the Red Sox and the Angels. My grandfather took me to Fenway. We sat near Pesky Pole, and I was at home during Game 5 thinking I wasn't going to be able to see Game 6 till Dave Henderson hit the home run, and I got to go. A very special moment. Coming in number 2, WrestleMania in Chicago.
Sport?
It is. It's sports entertainment, but I had the pleasure of going to WrestleMania with former Connecticut Sun star and current post-university head basketball coach Taj McWilliams Franklin. We celebrated together. I got to touch The Undertaker's trench coat as he came in. He gave me a stare.
Was his streak alive?
It was. Yeah, WrestleMania was a big event, but the best sporting event I've ever been to live was in 1986, the 30th anniversary this year, in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where the New London Legion beat New Bedford, Massachusetts 25-22 in the semifinals with a 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing out. The wind was so strong that former Major League player Paul Menhart couldn't throw his breaking ball because into a 30-mile-an-hour wind, it took all the life out of the breaking ball. New London came back from multiple deficits, won 25-22. Brian Mercado pitched the last 3 innings of the game. And then an hour later, New London had to take on New Hampshire in the championship game, and Mercado took the ball and threw a complete game to send New London to their 2nd consecutive World Series. Best day I've ever seen in baseball. It was an unbelievable.
Yeah, it's outstanding stuff. And you think about it, when you start thinking about where you were in life and sports in general, you start jogging your memory bank a little bit and what was the best game. You really reflect on the people, the places, and the things that made up your life. Sports is a huge part of my life, Casey, and will continue to be.
Absolutely. Sports is all about who you share it with. So all of these memories occurred because people shared them with something else. And we like sharing our thoughts and memories with all of you.
Great stuff. Keep it coming in and keep going to the games. Make memories with your family, friends. Keep building on through life. MJ Sullivan has a great lease deal on a 2016 Hyundai Sonata SE. No money down and only $259 a month for 36 months. Or get a lease deal on a 2017 Hyundai Elantra SE with only $2,000 down and only $175 a month for 36 months. Stop in for more details. You can see these and other summer deals always at mjsullivanauto.com.
Well, that's it for us sports fans. Thank you again to Philomena's Restaurant, to all of the folks who came and supported us live here at Philomena's tonight, and to all of you watching out there as well. Join us next week. That's right, 1 week from tomorrow, August 10th, where we will be filming again here at Philomena's. As always, you can find the question of the week, post rants, comments, or ask questions on any of our various social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or go to theday.com. I'm Casey O'Neill.
And as always, I'm the Sports Doctor, Keith O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in to Casey and the Sports Doctor. Boom.